You made it to the first hearing. This is probably the first time you're setting foot in the courtroom. You will be referred to as the respondent. And your job as the respondent is to appear at every single court hearing and to prove to the judge why you deserve to stay, even if the way you came in was without valid documents. Your first appearance in court is called a master calendar hearing. This will be short and it'll move so fast. Like I said, sometimes there's 80 cases. That means there's 80 people scheduled for court in one day. The judge can't really afford to spend more than a minute on each case. But that doesn't mean that it'll be a quick morning for you. You can expect to spend about 4 hours, sometimes even more, of your day here. So make sure that you plan for it. Remember, your job is to appear at every court hearing. So let's walk through this, right? Let's say your case is set for 8:30 in the morning. Most court buildings have really long lines to get in. Every person has to get through airport security. That means taking off their shoes, emptying out their pockets, taking off their belts. It can take about 30 minutes or more just to get inside. I've seen times where a hearing was set for 8:30 in the morning and people rushed in at 9:30 just as the judge was ordering them deported. If you don't appear on time or a reasonable time after, a judge can order you removed just because you didn't show up. Now that you're inside the building, that's when the real chaos begins. You'll have to find your courtroom and the judge. Most courts have a long list of every person's name and A number scheduled for court that day. If you can't find your name there and you're confused, courts also have a window. The person there can help you with any questions you have. You should have your A number with you, because that's how the court categorizes its cases. The lists displayed in either the hallways or the waiting rooms will have your name, your A number, the name of the judge, and the courtroom number. But when you find your name, don't stop there. Make sure you check the A number to ensure it belongs to you. If you don't know your A number, it's either an 8 to 9 digit number, it starts with the letter A. You can find it on the documents you've received from immigration. All of these circumstances add minutes to your day. So you really want to make sure that you plan with enough time to be in the courtroom at 8:30 if that's the time of your hearing. There are other ways to check the date and time of your hearing and the judge. There's a court hotline. If you do use this, you'll be prompted to enter your A number and it will tell you when you are to appear. You can also check the same information online. Last thing, keep in mind, the immigration system is overwhelmed. There are thousands of cases scheduled every day and mistakes happen. The automated system may not have your case listed, but that doesn't mean that the court isn't expecting you. So to be sure, you can call the court directly and speak to a clerk about when and where your hearing is. It's also a good idea to ask what floor the judge is on. Most immigration courts have lots of judges and they're spread out over different floors and in different buildings. Let's take New York City, for example. They have 3 different buildings: Varick Street, 26 Federal Plaza, and 290. If you go to the wrong one, you're gonna miss your hearing. What do I need to bring to my first hearing? This is a really good question. And you will need to bring your notice to appear, also called an NTA. And this is probably the most important document of your immigration case. It starts the case against you, and you should keep it in a safe place. You will need this document to get into the court building, but your lawyer will also want to see this document, and so will the judge. So we're going to spend some time learning about why this document is so important and what's in it, because your entire first hearing will revolve around this document. The notice to appear explains the reasons why the government believes you should be deported from the US. So let's dive in. So what happens at your first hearing? Let's talk about this. Let's pretend that you don't have a lawyer the first time. The judge will ask you if you have your notice to appear. But how do you know what your notice to appear looks like? The notice to appear looks something like this. If you lost your copy or think you never got one, you should tell the judge that. If you see up in the corner it says notice to appear, the judge might refer to this as an NTA for short. Where you see the file number, that's your 8 or 9 digit A number. It should be written in that box. That A number is unique to you. The immigration judge will first ask you your name. In immigration court, you will be referred to as the respondent. Your name will be written in the NTA, and the judge will ask you to verify to make sure that it's you. In some cases, your name may be spelled wrong. Even if one letter is incorrect, this is something that you should tell the judge. If your case is approved, you want to make sure that all your documents have the correct name and the correct spelling. But the judge won't be able to change this document. You have to show the DHS lawyer proof that your name is wrong. That can either be a birth certificate or a passport. But before you provide any evidence, you want to speak to your lawyer about whether this is the best option for you. If you came to the US as a family, but your cases aren't joined together, this is a good time to also tell the judge that you want your cases together. If this is true and you are a parent and you came in with your minor children, your cases should be together. What if I moved since coming to America? Your address will be listed on the notice to appear, and the judge will ask you if this is the same address or if you've recently moved. It's okay if the notice to appear doesn't have your current address, but you have to make sure that the court does. It is your responsibility to inform the court anytime you move, and you have to do that within 5 days of moving. This is so important, and I can't stress it enough, because the court only uses snail mail, and if they don't have your current address, then there's no way you're gonna get notice. There's no email, there's no phone calls, there's only the snail mail. If you never got notice of a hearing and you missed your court date, too bad, so sad. The court will still order you removed because you had the obligation to tell the court about you moving. One important note, I've been in countless hearings where a respondent thought that they had already told the judge about their new address and the judge had no record. So remember what I told you about before about immigration being confusing on purpose? There's ICE, CBP, all these different agencies. A person has to give their new address to each agency. And oftentimes when the judge says they don't have your change of address, that's because you informed another agency about that. Immigration and Customs Enforcement is responsible for alternatives to detention. If you have an ankle bracelet or have to report to ICE through an app on your cell phone, you may have given them your change of address and not the court. The court's form is usually written on a blue form. If you've moved, bring something that has your mailing address so you can update the court that day. Lots of times, non-citizens can't remember their house number or their zip code. So you want to make sure that the information you give to the judge the day of the hearing is the correct address. That way, you can get your documents mailed to you. So remember, you have to provide the court with your new address within 5 days of moving to ensure that you're getting the proper documents. At your first hearing, the judge will ask you to raise your right hand and swear to tell the truth. It's called an oath. And then the judge will ask you questions. She'll ask whether you are a national of the United States. If you remember earlier, we spoke about American citizens, and American citizens cannot be in immigration court. The judge will also ask you, when did you come into the United States? And what country are you a native and citizen of? And that really just means, where were you born? The judge will also ask, how did you come into the United States? For example, did you come in with a visa or did you cross the border without any legal documents? These questions have legal purpose. The judge is trying to decide whether you have violated any immigration laws and whether those violations are what the Department of Homeland Security has said in the notice to appear. Here's an expert tip for you. If you don't have a lawyer but plan to get one, now is a good time to tell the judge that you want more time to find a lawyer. That way, a lawyer can look over your notice to appear and discuss with you what your options are outside of the courtroom. The immigration judge must decide if everything stated in the notice to appear is true. But don't worry, even if it is true and you're not supposed to be in the United States, you can still stay. You just have to prove to the judge why there is a legal way for you to stay.